I'm going to be turning this in. This is my homework to a creative writing class. Can I wait to cognate? Importante not to importante to be not mucho loco. See, I did that. Can I wait to cognate? I guess not. I started in the next line.
So you're
Importante.
throwing a little Spanish in there.
Slipped a little cognate with importante in there, yeah. Never accept a dare where their task requires these 5 words. Hold my beer, watch this. Just friendly advice. Euclid square rooting better than a pig. It's funny to me. Professora opened the door a crack. She'll like that because it says Professora opened the door crack. She'll love it. Semi-tacitly landing credibility to the fact there is a chance of rain today, but an increased possibility of a zombie apocalypse in the future. So help me find the bright side, RJ, the right side of a hasty, not fully planned effort of nonviolent resistance. When I first came home from the Army in 1983, I mean that very day, my mother privately asked to borrow $400. She had a job. My father was a union electrician. I have actively looked for whistles on eBay back in the day. I settled on the Acme Thunder. I'll be showing a picture of it later. If Salt Paco had continued seeking musical relevance, then my theology would be impacted now in 2025 CRE, Christian Reset era. That's new, RJ. Christian Reset era for the year. Presuming credibility was earned was a lesson hard learned. Not paid to lie, the doctor said I would die probably in about 30 years. He charged me $300. Do not do as they do because they told you not to. The opposite of resisting tyranny is embracing new laws passed by lawmakers that never read the 1,000 pages of what is to be enforced down the barrel of a robot-built gun. Welcome, RJ. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a nonviolent way. RJ, tyranny, I got it nailed down there, right?
Yeah, I think you described it well enough for me, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a forceful situation.
We have to pass this law before we go on Christmas vacation. I can hear it already. I've heard it for 50 years since I've been old enough to vote. Crazy, right?
Yeah, what goes around comes around.
You ain't seen nothing yet, man. Wait, I'm waiting to see what you got for me today. Here's the okay. Here's the disclaimer somewhere in here. Here's that disclaimer thing. Don't you think that my advice is for anybody but Christians who believe? Go to your doctor. Otherwise, not too many of the cut up pictures to do. Here's the last one. the refusal to remain silent from the song "You Are the Voice," because I kind of hit that thing down the barrel of a gun. I can't sing
Sounds like Jeremiah to me.
not going to sit in silence, suggest a refusal to remain silent or to avoid engaging in conversation. Reflecting a desire to voice one's concern or stand against something perceived as unfair. That was a very popular big hit in Australia back in 1986 from the very talented John. Does that look like me? It does.
In a way.
It's like looking in a mirror. I say that a lot, but
yeah, that one's hitting.
That's not me. That is not me. That is a guy that used to play.
That was you. You're a different person now. Yeah.
No, it's not even me. It's a man named, I'll show in his video. Somebody made a video of him. It's not me. I think they could, whether they're going to put these fancy staircases, and there are a lot of fancy staircases you could buy out. I think you could buy them out of a catalog, probably from the King of Tyre. All of those have been designs from the Titanic. Does it matter if you put it in a boat or put it in a mud-flood building? You buy it in a kit. You make sure
more
it's
stationary.
Huh?
Yeah. Something more stationary, I'd say, on land.
Boat? Well, as long as the boat's level when you build it, you do the best you can. Well, hey, RJ, what that pink stuff is?
What's that?
Guess what that pink stuff is?
Some sort of, I don't know, flesh. I have no idea.
It's water. It's water. It's heavy water with a little bit of red dye. 1 out of every 666 water molecules is something they call, like, what rough definition, heavy water. It's
666.
Yeah. So regular water floats.
I mean ice cubes.
Regular ice cubes would float in water. That's what we got.
Okay. Here. And those other ones are ice cubes of heavy water.
Yep. So in Tenochtitlan, they were told, the legend is they were going to spot an eagle eating a snake on a cactus, and they had to build a city there because their god back in the day when they were Stone Age people, before the Spanish got there, had told them that. So, I love that and stuff like that. Oh, RJ, here's a letter to me. Honest review of the King James Bible. I like reading the Bibles all the way through, and I have not done that with King James. I think everyone should do that, especially with translations. I think you had some negative things to say in previous videos about Francis Bacon and others related to the King James translation philosophy and their writings. Curious if you think it's worth reading. I thought, oh, well, that's a good question for RJ.
Well, yeah, matching, translations, English translations against one another. I don't believe that's a waste of time to get the flavor of the scripture, one compared to the other. I mean, everything should be quite similar, and yet you find more discrepancies and just off a little bit. I mean, what the scriptures imply as you read one and then compare it to another one.
No, it's weird, but as I read, have my back Bible. Were you late to the party on King James? Because I read, that's all there was. There was King James and then the Living Bible, and nobody that believed in God was going to be walking around going like, look, I'm reading the Living Bible. So we all, when was this your Bible, or were you a King James guy too? Because I get sometimes confused about when
I
you're
really don't,
getting serious
you know,
about
being
God.
that my mother was a devout Catholic, and my father certainly wasn't Catholic. We the our myself and my siblings were all raised Catholic, and then once we uh, you know got to a age of adulthood, it's less than half of my siblings remained Catholic, and to this day, me being one of eight, I believe there's still one that is Catholic. But yeah, I until I got married, I wasn't that interested in specifically Christianity. I was only familiar with Christianity being raised Catholic, and not devout, just
So that would
had
not include the King
had that
James.
influence. I
You know,
had that influence as a youth, for what it's worth.
yeah, I should correct myself. There was the Living Bible, King
Yeah,
James, and then there was the Douay version of the Catholic Bible, which never is on my radar. So you didn't have much exposure to the King James. It's what we speak, except without the these and the thous. That's the English
yeah,
language they enforced to take away Spanish, which had all the tenses, all the verbs, all the enunciation that brought. Well, however you addressed a woman in proper Spanish, you knew whether she was married, had children, whether she was older, where there was a word for everything, about that established the family unit as the center of the universe. English doesn't have that. It has a lot of things like your weird last name. Did I
yeah.
show all the pictures? I don't think so. I showed these things.
Well, yeah, and Greek has some interesting words also.
Right. And the King James,
Very
if you're gonna
specific
do that,
that
I
identifies.
yeah,
Yeah,
hey, Jason, if you're going to read the King James version, get a Strong's Concordance so that you can look up some of the harder words and see all of a sudden that, boy, that word doesn't belong there. That's a fun thing to do with King James. Hey, RJ, there's this new thing on StreamYard. These videos
yeah,
used to just upload in seconds, but remember that thing that StreamYard does now for $25, get 10% off. And I was going back and deleting it after, but I saw there was a button to click. Click this button if you want the ad, and it comes pre-clicked. So they're like, oh, well, I'll unclick it. I made a video. It took 10 hours to download if you unclick that button. It used to
no,
do it.
you don't.
It would do it in minutes. And this StreamYard was introduced as Google's collaboration with teachers, a free way to help you share in the classroom live streaming during COVID. And now it's turned into a money grubbing whore like I used to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
As
motives
horny
and
as some
intent.
people in
Yeah,
the world are, I was in love with money that much. I was a money grubbing whore. And the thing is like I was at the largest Christian homeschool supply thing in the world, trying to keep up with the other money grubbing whores when the people in the 80s and 90s were sending us money so fast we didn't know what to do with it. I found this very interesting. I just love it. I'm thinking of trying to carve it. Carving, dry machining. Okay, so this is old.
uh, whatever the percentages are, and there has to be something there. It's not a half split or a third split.
It's an infinity analemma, man. It's crazy, right? It's hard to get a straight line. What I'm learning is it's very, 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 very hard to get a straight line in God's creation. Very hard to keep a straight, narrow path in God's creation. Oh my goodness, did John the Baptist have his work cut out for him? I'm showing the Kearney Little League baseball field. It's where I hit my first grand slam, RJ. I was a child. I thought my batting average could go up more than, like, what do you mean I just got one hit? It was a grand slam. That's a big deal on TV. And he goes, yeah, but it's still only one hit compared to how many times you bat. And I'm there like, wow. And I instantly, like, it's like, I get fractions. So it was the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
RJ. This is
Yeah,
where
a lot
I
of
was.
RBIs, you know, you're
This
not going
is
to
where
get
I was
more RBIs.
And then they moved. Then my dad moved to make money 80 miles from Chicago. I was still in the wilderness, but
Make more
on
money.
a farm, you know, in the snow and stuff. But anyway, there's the Gila River. And my sister actually caught a Gila monster. But never knew there were pictographs and everything else. But that I just would wander around the desert, drink the water if I found a creek. My dad was like working on a copper mine in Yuma or something. There I am.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's for you, man.
Marine Band, that's the best one.
Wow. Wow.
You know, RJ, the reason I even showed that is part of, my crazy life is, I knew I saw this at an estate sale for sale for $10. And I told the lady, I said, hey, can I get your Horner's blues harp for $5? And she goes, you can have all four for 10. And I'm like thinking, that's a pretty good deal. So I bought them, and now it's like, Paco, what do you need four harmonicas for? And it's just like everything else that's around my house that's meant to be like, well, maybe I can present it or something as like on my show, because I do shows almost every day. Sometimes we buy, it's like a good deal, but did I really need four harmonicas? But they're not for me. If somebody came up and said, gosh, I wish I could make somebody happy by playing music, and if I only had a harmonica, in my crazy mind, I'd say, I got four in four different chords. But it never works out to where you get to be that good guy all the time or even ever. So the super gold harmonicas, brand new. I don't know. It's a relatively 1850s. German made. Everything's new.
Okay, so what would be the relative, fair market street value of
I'm glad you
such
asked, RJ.
item, when it was new?
When it was about 40 to $60. Here's the company that made it. J. Hudson.
Acme?
Well, this is Acme Whistle. Look, where's the Hudson? You know what? We're moving on. I wrote
Why
about
do I have visions of Roadrunner in my mind now?
the Acme Thunder Whistle. I wrote, let's see. Yeah, something about a whistle, and when I was looking for a whistle, I preferred the Acme Thunder. And so I had to look it up because this is a good whistle. Another thing invented in the 1850s, or from a guy then.
It's good
now they're
because
making them in Germany. Horner, this guy, 100 years, 3 generations. These are the whistle company here. Now,
Sure.
this is insane here. He used his tool shed to make gadgets, including whistles, after observing local police struggling to communicate with rattles. I'm picturing a baby shaking a rattle going, help, help. Not really the best idea back in 1883. He realized that his whistle could be used as a tool. As the story goes, RJ, Hudson, a violin player, accidentally dropped his violin. It shattered on the floor. Observing how the discordant sound of the breaking strings. Now, I don't know how hard he smashed this like Pete Townsend from The Who when he was breaking every guitar and speaker on the stage, or what, but his strings broke when he dropped it. He observed a disconnect sound traveling. So he put a P in a whistle. That's what I would have done. This gave it an ear-splitting rattle, better than their rattle, that could grab attention even a mile away. So he sold them to Scotland Yard. The rest is history. I'm saying almost every professional referee is going to be not found with one of these babies hanging on his neck. And this started out with the Birmingham City Police. There's your first whistles, RJ. You never know what you're going to learn here, do
Looks
you?
like a moose call or a duck call.
It looks like a milk jug with a flat bottom and fill those holes. So anyway, that's how you get to be a company, and their history will mention the Titanic and yay! Look at it. There was a whistle with a pocket knife back in the day. You can get one for $10, but if you want to be super cool, you're gonna get one of their collectibles, you know.
Probably.
Yeah, well, I thought I was pretty cool, so I had a few.
And then that bottom one was a flask. Yeah.
Hey. So,
All right.
more seriously, Great Russia Project, Peter the Great. You know, again, it's all a lie, but they do give a guy born here who was a personal turner and an engineer that ended up helping Peter the Great, what we think, dig out cities from the mud flood. But they are saying he decided, I visited England in 1711, and now in 1712, he's returned to Russia and invited Andre, because he heard that he could kick ass, to build him all of these great things. So I'm establishing, you know, that the timeline that has been set from the beginning is still good to go and strong. And if you don't know what it is, go back and look at the old videos for once. More of the still gauging. RJ, we didn't have the still gauges that made what we see in the past of the Industrial Revolution possible until the 1890s. Because, you know, there wasn't a world measurement of like, we all going to make our cannons and guns this side so that if you capture our M16, you can still use a 223 bullet, you know, or 308. But it was these guys. And I guess I'm driving it home that these gauge blocks are, you know, the super precise standards. So, well, we need this type of precision if a robot dog is going to be able to build a robot gun on its back and go around looking for people to enforce, show me your ID and scan your barcode, things like that. You know, it's these guys, man, demonstrating, you know, in 1917, here's how you need something that's flat. And my goodness, they started with the 33 early and they've never let it go, RJ. Enough about that, or should I keep beating that horse? There's more.
Yeah, most narratives are very to be suspicious of.
I did find out that the reason these gauge blocks, why do they stick together? When something's flat and you push them together, it's called ringing. Nobody knows why they get stuck together, molecular binding, vacuums and air pressure, something oily maybe. But yeah, if you get it flat enough, it sticks together as if it were a magnet. A posadnik appears to be derived from the early process of princely representation. I am okay. There's a posadnik right there. John build the church. I studied posadniks yesterday, so Boyers were involved, and the Ostomer Gospels. They really don't show a lot about the Ostomer Gospels or any of these, really. I was looking for signs of Trinity worship because, that's coming to be a big, big, big deal nowadays. What's the Trinity? Why won't people explain it to me? But I do like the years because we know they added the 1,000. And I do believe there were other Gospels in the mix back in the day, RJ, when the Apostle Paul was saying, hey, if you get another gospel, don't believe it. Things like that. I
Right.
thought you might find this
Good
interesting.
advice. Yeah, that was good advice.
Here's somebody that wrote this Pagoda Bell inscription, Conqueror of the 10 Directions. There's a company, something nowadays, a world organization, RJ. They're the ones that decided this deserved the green peacock. It's inscription.
Look,
and
it's sort of goofy star fort type.
It's worthy of study because it's listed in the Memory of the World Register. Did you know that the world had a memory register?
Oh, just in case everyone forgot something, that's their go-to.
Well,
archive.
No, it more of a, if you need to summary of world history, go here to Wikipedia.
Sure.
They'll help
you.
Yeah.
There you have it. Everything you needed to know or wanted to know.
The proton has a positive charge. So you can add this without affecting the atom. You still have just one electron. So it's just like hydrogen, but now you can see it weighs twice as much.
So hydrogen is just a proton with a little electron buzzing around it, if you like, and deuterium is a proton and a neutron with an electron buzzing around it.
In the universe and on the Earth, about one atom in every 7,000 of hydrogen is in this heavy form, deuterium. This means that if you are an average weight adult of about 70 kilos and making an assumption of about how much water is in your body, somewhere between 6 to 8 grams of the water in your body is in fact heavy water, which contains deuterium instead of hydrogen.
Niels Degas.
Hey, RJ, guess what my newest conspiracy is? This deuterium, it's an element. It is something that you can measure and say, there it is. It's like, hydrogen or oxygen or any of those other ones that say, this one only exists for a fraction of a second, but we can make it. But if you go to look up the D on the table, the periodic table of elements, it's not there. Why wouldn't they have that element listed on the table of elements?
Because they don't want you to know about it. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I thought.
That it has its own symbol. In fact, there is a third form of hydrogen, which has 2 neutrons, so its weight 3 units, called tritium, which has the symbol T. But tritium is radioactive, so it's not used very widely, unless you're trying to make nuclear weapons.
Haha,
And that's
funny.
another story.
But what we need to do first
Nuclear.
Right.
is we need to get rid of all the air, because obviously there's a lot of
Kinda
air
like
dissolved
nuclear.
in D2O, in anything. So Neil has
Look at this guy, Neil. He reminds me of the overlooked sculpture professor at our school, who one time, when people were lining up to show their preview of sketches of a project, he took one out of a girl's hand before he asked if she could, so he got a letter. And now all he does is the hard work. That's what Neil does. Neil was told to set up this experiment so they could film it. He did all the work. And it's like, and now it's like, where does this water come from, Neil? And by this look, you can tell they had just explained it's from the 1930s. How would he know where it came from? You know, it was there when he got there.
gassed some D2O and some water for
So he
us.
just shook
This is
his
a
head, I
vacuum
don't
pump
know.
here. And what you can do is apply a vacuum to said liquid and pump out.
Said liquid. So anyway, they do it, and it doesn't
Heavy
float.
ice, solid
I found it
something in
super
my
interesting.
calculation.
So what we
H2O molecules on the surface of the ice will have exchanged with hydrogen. And I think also that the melting point of D2O is different from that of ice.
See what happened, RJ? They don't show it for long, but
It floated.
yeah, after about 2 hours, it didn't go all the way to the top, but it kind of
Yeah.
ended up settling right there.
Yeah, buoyancy of whatever.
So I found it weird, but that's heavy water. When you look up heavy water, they're going to, usually they don't mention that it occurs naturally. They make it seem like it's made, always made. Heavy water has different physical properties than regular water, right? About 10% denser, higher melting point, the most cost-effective process for producing, because they make it now. They can add deuterium to it, but they never really, they are hiding it, because I've studied this before. It does seem that now it's harder to get a grasp that this occurs naturally. And I couldn't find any proof of what I remember, that it's 1 out of 666. But I still remember it. I'm going to go with
But
that.
this has nothing to do with that fourth stage of water.
No, not the more recently discovered exclusion zone in water, which is why that if you spit on something, there's always going to be a trail of your spit there. It never leaves. And that, yeah, it's weird, but water is becoming so important, It says it mainly consists of, regular
It always
H2O.
has been important, but yeah, as far as understanding maybe more of these characteristics, yeah. And
Right. Do we need a water standard to be defined by the Vienna standard of mean ocean water? It really does seem, RJ, that their water is a big deal in our future. There's some fresh water, and the snow melt runoff where I live. We're not here just bringing information. I'm trying to show you something that if you're called, you're going to be a part of the people that is supposed to help old people and young people run for their lives, not stand behind me while I hold off the robot dog. That's not part of your future. Grand staircases. I was going to try to prove that these were all bought from a kit, but that seems redundant now. I even had these all pictures pulled up. Got the idea from this video.
When you have, you are. The more you
Okay, that's like
the more you
back me.
Consumerism makes everyone think he has a chance to make it big. No one's going to attack capitalism if he thinks that's what guarantees him the chance of having things someday, the chance of being forever.
Pour lui d'avoir un jour, c'est-à-dire d'être toujours.
The Grand Palais, a jewel in the middle of the capital. It had up to 40,000 visitors in a single day.
Did you see that jet? That's a convo.
The
One of the
Grand
I
Palais-
was looking at the construction of that roof, and how
Yeah, where's the, I think that's a Convo, one of the first jet planes, but they had no propeller, and they had those, and then they hit them. There's your basic Wright brother airplane. So this must have been, if you ever go see that, what is that one place I visited there? The mystery place where they have all the kaleidoscopes in the hill and buried dungeon. They have all kinds of planes there too. And there's a grand staircase.
1,000 visitors
Buy it
in a
out of a
single
kit.
day.
Anyway, so I think everybody knows they're hiding the past. Here is another old book from the 1st century that when they have to admit this is the time of Christ. And when they talk about they had zoos for their royals with every kind of bird, I guess they did. But they were very religious people. Everybody back then was very religious. Nobody was atheist, it would seem, RJ, even though some very religious people were doing things like worshiping Moloch and doing that whole child sacrifice thing. At the same time, other people were building chinapas in the middle of this lake, because this is where they said they saw the eagle eating a snake on a cactus. They saw it in the middle of the lake. So in their primitiveness, they said, we must build city on lake. The first step was building chinapas. They still use them today. Floating gardens in a natural lake. And they worked until Mexico came and took it over. It's made in the shape of an eyeball. And everything we've learned came from those gauge plates in the 1880s. So we're supposed to believe, RJ, that all precision, and this one is by Shell, Dutch oil company, from, made their profit, started it by selling heroin, and that's what made Egypt want to start a tea company and sell heroin. Anyway.
And special tests to measure these properties. In the 4-ball test, for example, 3 steel balls are locked in a cup containing the oil and placed in contact with a 4th ball clamped to a shaft. When the machine is started, the shaft turns at high speed, spinning the 4th ball against the other 3.
The takeaway on that part is that ball bearings, cutting, tensile strength from the 1880s. Now, watch this guy. We got the sparks flying, and this guy's not even wearing glasses.
Of cutting edges, each of which carries the cut a stage further than the one before. The hob is a modified milling cutter designed to cut gear teeth. The grinding wheel, on the other hand, is one of the commoner tools. Its rough surface is really made up of thousands of minute cutting edges. Grinding is used mainly for finishing operations.
Robots can do this now.
The most versatile of all machine tools is the lathe. The object of any machining operation is to remove
get right on it,
amount
dude.
of metal as easily and as
Machining, drafting, it's so new. Accuracy is new. Fundamentals of accuracy came from this guy. I showed it again, freezing, ringing them. It went right to Ford. This guy became Ford's best friend. Nothing. How new is everything, RJ?
Before finally being whacked the final dimension, the entire process takes about a year.
Yeah, newness brings a difference.
The outbreak of World War
In the outbreak of World War I, they all of a sudden these things take a year to make, $27,000. United States needs 100 of them. They start kicking them out. Lie upon lie upon lie. In the meantime, we're still dealing with this in 1885, well before the Bridal Falls in Telluride, where they brought another one, and Tesla was supposed to, been doing the Warncliffe Towers in Colorado Springs. They brought this up with a donkey. None of it makes sense. The only thing that makes sense, RJ, is mud flood was Armageddon. You could, that wasn't the Ames one. That is the one here.
Yeah, if you look at that, well, the detailing, the labor intensiveness of those machines, I think the only thing that we've been able to do is like cheat and maybe make it in a different way, but it's the compromises the integrity that you lose through that process. It's not going to last nearly as long, but it's going to require what otherwise would have been, more attention to detail,
just touch on planned obsolescence of how all of our industry today could make things that were those 100,000-mile guarantees.
Oh yeah,
don't break at 100,000 miles. They know it's like they're planned to break exactly on time.
Yeah, cost prohibitive, and then where the whole, if you recall the automobile industry, where every year they had to change the product line, and the logistics of doing that, they were capable of doing that, but that way the parts are not interchangeable, and it's
do you think any truth to the rumor that the Chevrolet 327 small block engine, that there's never been an example of that engine ever failing if you change the oil every 5,000 miles or so? And Chevy and all the other companies realized we're going to go broke, or we won't make as much money, because once they buy a car, it will last forever. And they couldn't have
the whole idea of changing, the product line that available for public sales. Yeah, that's the whole mindset of doing that, because, and then over time, then you'll have those individuals that evaluate the different makes and models. Some vehicles will do that, 250,000, 500,000 miles by just doing the scheduled maintenance, and that's all you have. And then driving, they're just going to last virtually, not forever, but a long time, compared to other inferior models that have other defects and poor engineering design.
Would you say it's safe to say that somebody along the way, once the plan was revealed, here's the internal combustion engine, people helped that? I mean, there were people that improved it to it got to the point of where it's like, okay, now these engines will not fail. People do help. They come up with ideas and they say, if we can do this, it will be good. They are usually not rewarded. Is that, I think we can agree on that before we go forward, because the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes are going to be the culmination of what I'm trying to prove here.
Which, when it comes to those that come up with ideas, it's usually sold to someone else's idea, however it's implemented. But there's no reward to the the individual that, designed
So
that.
in the Rainbow Mountain, it's a viral thing. It's besides Machu Picchu in Peru, it is the number 2 tourist attraction. Wasn't established until COVID. And this guy,
in the
him and
southern
his
Peruvian
friends
Andes,
did
the
it.
most
They
impoverished part of
decided,
the
you know
country.
what? Why do we have to
One thing we
travel to
realized when
Machu Picchu to be porters there when we've got this beautiful mountain that we can call Rainbow Mountain and people may come to see it? They started to come and see it. They improved the road. The village did.
You travel to the Andes is that usually the center of power of any indigenous community will be the lowest part of that mountain. The higher you go, the fewer things will grow and the fewer opportunities you'll have.
Yacto. Pronounce it the double L like a yacto, like a yellow. Yacto, Yadro porcelain. I love their hats. They all knit them and wear them.
Yo soy de la comunidad de Yacto.
He's from the community.
Crecí ahí con toda mi familia.
So these native people here are descendants of
the Maya, the Inca, Aztecs.
Okay.
Now, and they live in this town. They made the road. They killed this guy because it became the second most popular thing, and now they needed money. All of a sudden, it worked. Their plan worked. They got the people to town, and all of a sudden, shit. Man. Dead man walking.
El señor Cecilio y el señor Flavio eran enemigos a muerte.
Me di cuenta que encima de un cerro había estado algo rojo. ¿Qué será? Dije. Subo un poco más, avanzo y me doy cuenta que es una persona. Entonces digo, es mi papá. Corriendo subo, lleno de sangre, irreconocible.
Rufina declara de manera espontánea al señor Cecilio como presidente de la comunidad, donde le propina.
Somebody's lying, RJ, but the thing is, Rainbow Mountain. Let's look at it.
Ready to visit one of the most breathtaking natural wonders in the world? Rainbow Mountain in Peru is a must-see destination that'll leave you in awe. This colorful mountain range with its stunning striped patterns has become a favorite spot for adventure seekers and nature lovers alike. Hello, I'm Lindsay from Have Clothes Will Travel, and today's video is all
wonder how much it costs.
around 2 days before your trek to Rainbow Mountain. This will allow your body time to adapt to the reduced oxygen levels.
17,000
Be
feet.
sure to take it easy.
That's crazy. That's
Stay
crazy.
consistently hydrated by drinking.
Yeah, you need a budget, right?
I've never been that high. RJ, why do they care? Why do they care about the view if they don't believe that the stones are crying out, that the Titans are reserved in judgment, the mud flood was Armageddon? Why do they care about the view? That's what I don't. Is it really awe-inspiring without the Father? It's not to me. It's not even interesting to me without the Father being like, wow.
Yeah, trying to comprehend what someone else is unable to recognize. Yeah, seems odd. It's like the ability to get in someone else's mind, and I don't have that capability. But yeah, what you just described, as far as the same view from the same vantage point from different eyes, and what the purpose of to explain that. Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, apparently there's a bucket list of things that eugenists, Darwinists, abortion lovers, still they're driven to want to see before they die. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But anyway, we've gone about
as far as
50
being an advantage or a disadvantage, who's to say there? But this world we live in, that God provides for his creation, has purpose in more than in a single sense, for sure.
And the goal would be for us to do that. What is the will of God in my life? You know, there is the Lord's Prayer, and I hope to get to that. But before we get there, well, let's look. Let's pull. I've got it pulled up. Let's look at it. So after the Lord taught his disciples how to pray, he went on to say, right after that, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Some people might be thinking, well, there's no thieves in my town. Yes, there is. Verse 20, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart. There your heart. There's your heart, everybody. Where your treasure is, I'm going to contend. There your heart. There's your heart. And along the way, it would be good to know that building a foundation, skilled master teachers, and I believe I'm becoming one, if not, that it can tell people for sure, hey, if you want to build up a foundation of gold, silver, and precious stone in your heart, because you can't carry it with you. It has to be in your heart if you want gold, silver, and precious stones in heaven. You're saved by grace, but there's going to be work involved. RJ, how do I put that into words before you close this? And I know you've got that Lord's Prayer memorized, so we don't need to look at the Matthew 6 anymore.
The heart is extremely revealing, whether you realize it or not. It's a fact. And
the abundance of our heart thing, right?
Yeah, you know, what they call it? Yeah, the pulling on the strings of the heart like reins, you know.
Heartstrings.
You know, what influences, you know, not just compulsiveness, but you know, what you're kind of driven to do, action-wise, thinking, feeling. The heart is very revealing. You know, that's as true as it gets. That's as true as it gets.
For 8 years, I think almost a little over 8 years, you've been on board with that. The stones are crying out, that the gold, silver that we find in the veins of the mountain is because the mountains are the body parts of titans reserved in judgment, because those titans were to die like men. Psalm 82, the titans were Elohim, created Elohim, gods that were made in the image, and then later Adam was formed from their dust. That's a, what do they call that in their capitalistic world? That's a hard sell. But my heart says we should keep trying. Because
don't be discouraged, even though, sometimes it seems as though you're, beating the dead horse thing. But the heart, when it comes to being spontaneous, to something, the heart can be quite revealing also. I mean, it's always there, but that's where the true colors seem to, expose themselves in a way that you can't deny it,
Right. Well, before we totally lose our connection, and you probably can't tell, but you're frozen on my end, but your audio is still working. Why don't you go ahead and wrap us up with the Lord's Prayer? I think we've done our job. Everybody should have something to think about, and we'll wrap it up right there.
I can do that.
Oh, you're live again.
Say what?
Yeah, now you're moving again.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. This is Salt Paco inviting you to confess with your mouth if you believe that in your heart. This is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends will never tell you anything else because we know we're called, chosen, predestined, elect, adopted into the family of God. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Avidesen. Nakamen. Adios. Somebody likes to say goodbye like that. Hasta luego.